G'day podcasters, welcome back to Season 6 of True Blue Conversations with your host Adam Bloom, the author of Easy Target, now available at adambloom.com.au. 8 years ago, after returning from 3 tours of Afghanistan and then gaining experience and education in financial planning, Warren Loudon teamed up with fellow veteran Dave Vaughan and started Loudon and Vaughan Private Wealth, founded with the underlying belief that every person matters and every dollar counts, providing comprehensive tailored financial advice and wealth management services for you and your family. Loudon and Vaughan will guide you towards your financial goals with integrity and transparency. Whether you're planning for retirement, investing for the future, or managing your family's wealth, they've got you covered. Visit loudonandvaughan.com.au or call 02 9538 2704 to book a meeting with Warren today.
G'day, welcome back to True Blue. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. He's a good mate of mine, and we have been setting up this podcast for a little while now, and this guest had a very distinguished career in the Australian Army. He served in transport and then transferred over to be a Marine Specialist, serving in the Special Operations, serving at 2 Commando. And he deployed overseas on a number of deployments to East Timor and Iraq. And this is it's a raw, it's an honest, and it's a story of overcoming adversity and a story of redemption. And I'm joined by my good mate, Chris Ghalayini. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Adzi. Firstly, thank you for putting this together for me and your time. And not only that, I appreciate your time, that what you've done for the veteran community and first responders. Like I said to you before, for me, that's a hat off to you and a feather in your cap that you're doing it.
Thanks, mate.
And the fact that you're actually telling these stories to the next person to really understand, what we actually dive into and what we have come to where we are today.
No, thanks, man. It's, as I say, mate, I've got the best job in the world. I get to sit with people like yourself and so many other veterans and first responders and inspirational people, and mate, I love doing what I do. So, no, thank you, mate. They're very humble words. And, mate, before we get into your military career, let's go back to a young Chris and talk me through you growing up and what were you like at school, your hobbies, and do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I was a quiet, shy kid, to be honest, Adam. So I grew up in a little small town called Warrington County in the outskirts of Penrith.
I know Warrington County, yes, mate.
Yeah, so for me, growing up as a kid there, it was just surrounded by wildlife, bushlands, the fact that you have kangaroos and emus grazing on your front lawn before you go to school. It was like you really knew you were in a rural end of Western Sydney. But yeah, I've got 2 siblings. I've got an older brother, Richard, and I've got an older sister, Diana, and I'm the youngest out of the 2. So yeah, it's where I grew up is just, it was crazy. 1984 marked the days of Penrith, and I kind of stayed there, to be honest, and moved back there post my defence career. So now I call it home.
And for you, school, mate, were you good at school?
Yeah, everyone would like to think so. I was a kid that was very inquisitive to the point where, I was easily distracted, I think with most kids this day and age. And yeah, but, I would say that, I was very assertive in certain aspects of fields that I would like. So with everyone, you have a level of interest in a particular subject that you'd like to do. And if you don't like it, then I'm going to switch off. I think that's with every kid this day and age. But yeah, no, I was good at school. I never really gave my teachers too much trouble. But other than that, it was just like where I grew up. It was a little bit. It wasn't how society was today, where it's very like today. It's very mixed, nationalities. Where I grew up, and hence why I was probably a little bit shy, is because I had a lot of non-ethnic groups where I was more of a minority.
Oh,
Growing up in a school out west, especially.
100%.
So it wasn't till late 90s when most of the multinationalities started to come through Penrith and really start to lay a little bit more of a multicultural diversity in Penrith.
And I know that myself because I grew up in the Blue Mountains, and 100% it was the first, like in the late 90s. It was probably I'd say early to mid 2000s that the culture started to change a lot out there, and because, as you're saying, it was white Caucasians that were basically lived out in the western suburbs. That's
correct.
Essentially what it was.
Yes, yeah.
So, for you, mate, did you face any, like, in your schooling, did you face any, like, racial or anything like that growing up that you can remember?
To be honest, I didn't catch it personally through primary school, but I saw some of my peers catch it. Look, what do you do in a situation like that? It's kind of hard to kind of voice, but I was kind of that person who would stick up for my friends and my mates that were getting kind of like bullied in that type of area, where I kind of like, be there to support.
Yep.
It wasn't until my high school years when I started to really, when you get older, people start to change and you start to get that little bit of sly comments that come through. But again, my resilience through primary school enabled me to have thick skin and still protect my mates around me. But again, I had lots of friends. I had Hispanics, Chinese, Nepalese, Greeks, Egyptian friends, Australian mates who were full, they were born and raised here, the second generation. So for me, I was very diverse, and I kind of knew how to navigate myself through schooling in that type of environment, which kind of really helped shape the foundation to my next career path, which we'll dive in deeper, jumping into the Australian Defence Force, where, again, you become another minority in the pool of the scheme of things. But you know what? Because of my primary school years, growing up as a kid in Western Sydney, then going through my high school years in Western Sydney, really created that foundation to have thick skin and to learn to deal with people in that level of space. So it kind of outweighs itself a little bit.
And for you, mate, you mentioned that you just talked about the Australian Army, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But did you have anyone that had served in the Army before you, or in the first responder space, or are you the first?
No, I'm the first one.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm the first Ghalayini, and I'm going to hold that mark. So I'm the first Ghalayini to even go through the Australian Defence Force. So when you enlist or when you go through and finish up in Kabuko, they give you a little name and ID, and if you got Christopher Ghalayini, if there's another Ghalayini, you'll be Ghalayini 1 or Ghalayini 2. So I laid the foundation, so the next one that comes in, they're going to be a 1. So I kind of I was the first to pioneer it in in the first generation in my space, and that was kind of, honestly, I think I probably would have spoken to you about it before, but for me, I was asked by a bombardier as to why I wanted to join. And then, my heart joined, one, not only for the challenge, but was to give something back for what this country gave to my parents as immigrants, because I knew the hardship that they had to face coming into a country that was so foreign, that stripped them from their identity, because they had to kind of mix in to their new identity. And so it was kind of good to give back. And for me to serve that was my clear token. And there was no timeline on it. It wasn't, hey, I'm just going to go in for 4 years. It was just get in there, get the job done, and be who I am, and stay true to myself. So,
and for you, so you're the first, and we'll talk through the process in a minute. But mate, I always ask every guest, and for you, where were you on 9/11, and what do you remember of that day in September 2001?
Yeah, so wow, that's a good question, because I actually still remember exactly what I was doing at the time of when that all happened, when it was all broadcast. I didn't see the live event. I didn't see the actual live event happen, but I remember waking up that morning, because it was a routine. You get up, I was going to school like everyone would, or everyone's commuting to work, and I just remember putting the news on. and seeing the horrific images that we saw on TV that the world had to succumb to. And over then, it was like, I think I would have been in year 11 then. Can't remember. Oh, yeah, I think it would have been year 10 or year 11 at that time. But to have that thoughts of that this could happen anywhere in the world kind of like hit home. And that's when you kind of realise that there was going to be a war that was going to potentially break out. And then 2003 is when Iraq started to really push on, and the hunt for Osama bin Laden and all that. Like, it just really, really put things into perspective, saying, hey, we still live in a dangerous world, so we can't be complacent, so to speak. But you get to that age. But yeah, so it was a dull, dark memory at school, and I remember that school actually paused for half a day because of it. You know what I mean? And we kind of realised that, this was a big thing.
Well, it changed the world, mate.
It did.
That day.
It did.
I remember where I was, mate. I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
I got up going to school as well, and I was like, where's Cheese TV? Like, where's... And then I thought it was a movie. I thought, geez, this is a good... And then when I saw people jumping out of the buildings,
that was crazy.
Okay, this isn't a movie. This is real. And I didn't know that those actions would, change the way of our world going forward, like security and airports, and what it meant for the Defence Force, which you would eventually join a few years after that event. But it's amazing, mate, the history that you go through of, like, I remember where I was, September 11, the Bali bombings in 2002, the tsunami of 2004, all the London bombings in 2005, all these things that I remember in my... and, I sound like I'm an old perp, but I'm only 32, but that's what's happened in my lifetime, and you've seen a lot, and that day definitely did change the world. And for you... was that another factor, do you think, to join up, to be part of, like, giving back to, you say, what you got for this country, but also, was that, because I know a lot of veterans I spoke to said, that was it. That was we wanted to be part of, of the war, like the war on terror. And for you, another reason, do you think that's what you joined the Australian Defence Force as well, or not as much?
To be completely honest, no, not as much. It was that time, because I was still young. I was still at that level of completing my HSC and not knowing where my future was going to lie. So my heart wasn't really set on the foundations yet. Look, America got attacked. I'm going to join the Australian Defence Force. No, it really, the Defence Force came to me later on in my career. As I was 22. When I enlisted, and that was when Iraq started to really kick off. So 2003, when I found out what was happening in Iraq, and all that kind of led me to want to join. And
you did that in 2006,
correct?
So
talk
me through that process, mate. Because back then, internet was around, and it was like, did you go into a recruiting office, or how did you join?
Yeah, so how it came to me, like, I remember I was managing a family-run business, which I took over and started running that on my own. It was a cleaning business, and that just started off as a hobby through business studies, and from there, that helped me with my first property, which was fantastic at the age of 21. So then I kind of like knew how to channel my challenges, and it was more that I wanted more. So then I started to look at outsourcing full-time employment, and then for me that still wasn't satisfying enough until I saw an army truck that went to Wiseman's Ferry, and just to see that camaraderie, they all pull out, they're playing touch football, where that these young kids had the courage to leave home at such a young age to join in an organisation that was so unknown and so foreign to them, to call them their new family, a new home. And for me, I really was inspired to that. And when I saw that, that's when I kind of like, you know what, I think this is the time that I need to join, and I think this will be a good challenge for me. Whether I make it or not, I think I'm just going to give it a good hard crack and give it a go. And I put a lot on the line, to be honest, because as I alluded before, I bought my first property. So it's like I just, don't worry about the home loan now, sacrifice my jobs and just put my resignation in just to go to an unknown world, to be on recruitment pay, to try and make ends meet. But I took the risk, and honestly, it paid off. But I enjoyed it. I didn't do it for the money. It was more that I wanted to do it because of the challenges, and my heart was there at the right place at the right time.
100%. And for you join up in 2006. Did you know much about the army, of like infantry or armoured corps, or did you know much about the army?
Yeah, I understood army structure, and I understood worn ranks and ranks, but one thing was the cultural aspect that I found it hard to really fathom. That's something that it's a real mysterious world where you just don't know, because you're meeting mixed multinationality and mixed multis where, they all come from all walks of life. Some as farmers, some have come from, really high-tech savvy businessmen families, so it was more just, it was kind of hard to adjust, but we adjusted through. But and you know what, it was a good organisation to be a part of, because I felt that that's where I learnt most of my life skills from.
And so you go to Kapooka, mate, and what do you remember of your time at Kapooka? Was it the shock? Because you're a little bit older, so a lot of the veterans that I've spoken to join at 17, and it was a shock to the system. For you get to Kapooka, you're a little 22, you said?
Correct,
so for you to go there at 22, was it the shock as much of a shock? Because you got a little bit of life experience now. You're still young, but you got a bit of life experience. But what was it like for you there? Did you enjoy Kapooka?
I loved it. To be honest, a lot of people think, he's just gone nuts. But it was more so, I enjoyed the time there. Look, the first couple of weeks were kind of the hardest, because again, you just, like with anything, humans are just, they need to adjust their area before they start feeling comfortable. And I found my comfort up, I think, after the first week, where you start to fall into routine, you start to fall into rhythm, you get to play the game, and then you start setting...
You realised it was a game, yeah.
You start setting your challenges, and your challenges is not outshining the next person next to you, but always helping those around you. And that's one thing that really stood out with me, is that the fact that I still cared about my peers whilst going through Kapooka. I wasn't the fastest runner, nor I was the slowest runner. I was that person in between. But I would never outshone anyone. It was more that just here to train, here to get my job done, blend in with as many people I can blend in with, and just enjoy the process and enjoy life, because I remember we had a psych screen whilst on our fourth day, a part of induction, and the psych just talks about your time in service. And I remember it was a clear perspective. The way they actually explained it was that if you look at your time in defence and your timeline as a whole, it's only a small 10% of training that you ever do in your lifetime that's going to be over. So you look beyond that. And that really stuck with me. And I'm like, you know what, that was a good analogy. I'm going to stick with that one, because if you look back at it, and everyone's like, yeah, it's a 3-month training course and whatever it is now, I don't know, I think they've changed it. But back then, it was only a smidge of your life. So give it all you got. And that was my mentality. So I stuck with it.
And for you, what did you learn about yourself at Kapooka? Because, things that, as you said, you ran a business, and that's always challenging. But did you learn new things about yourself whilst you were at Kapooka?
Absolutely. So I learned how to be more independent. Even though I felt that I was independent to begin with, this took it to a whole new level, where you kind of realise, hey, you're on your own now. You haven't got your mum or dad to confine in if you're having a poor day. You really need to go into your room, have a bit of a sulk, have a bit of a whinge, have a good look at yourself in the mirror to say, hey, it's just you and I here. We've got to sort this out. So again, adjusting to that climax, it was really, really good. But it was more to the fact that it helps you become more receptive and resilient for later on in life. And I think that's what kind of laid my foundation down.
100%. And for you, mate, you pass out Kapooka, you get your family all come down and see you pass out.
Yeah.
Proud moment for you, looking back?
Looking at it, it was a very proud moment. To see your parents just so proud of you at that time, because they were in tears, and The whole family come down to support. Just really shows that makeshift and good family bond, which I think it's important still to this day and age, and hence why we can only, there's an ultimate saying, Ads, I think I've said it to you before, you can go only so far on your own, but if you put a good group of people together, family and friends, you can go a whole lot further.
100%.
So a lot of people are starting to lose that value, unfortunately, but it stuck with me.
We can get into that a little bit later in the podcast, mate, of how the world is at the moment. But, mate, and back then, were you core allocated, or did you get to choose what core you wanted to go into? Yeah,
it was a good question, because I initially went in to become a Q staff. It would have been RAYOC Corps back then. So I just enlisted as RAYOC Corps. It was more that I just wanted something I found that they can give you courses and specialty courses. And I thought, you know what? I thought about infantry, but I just knew, even with the level demand of how my body was growing up as a kid, playing sports and playing rugby league and basketball, I kind of knew that my body would take a toll anyway. So it wasn't that it was the non-combat vibe that I was looking for. It was more for help, support, or even get into that corporate entity to be able to branch out. Because as everybody knows, in defence, one door opens, the next one closes, and then you've got another 10 doors in front of you. It's like, which one do you pick? Yeah. And then to answer your question, it wasn't into when I was in Kapuka, it's when I started to look into Marine Specialists, because my corporal at that time, who was my recruiting instructor, he said to me, he goes, Ghalayini, I heard you like boats and this and that. Have you thought about doing this? And his name was, his nickname was Rocky, and he had completed, he actually attempted to his SAS selection. Unfortunately, he almost made it, but I think his ankle gave way. But for the fact that he had gone that far and then go back to recruiting, it's like someone you really respect and know that he is a person that would strive. And I really looked up to him going through Kapuka, and I think he kind of got that vibe as well. And that's why he said, Chris, you know what? Have you thought about doing this? And I said, you know what? That's a really good idea. I said, how do I get there? And he goes, oh, look, you need to become a driver for 12 months and you got to transfer over to RACT. I said, yeah, done. So I made the transition at Kapuka there and then. So I got rid of the RAYOC and then went to RACT ready for the next foundation. So I was already planning ahead 5 years in advance.
Yeah, right.
Because I was like, Marine Specialist, I think, you know what, that really aligns up to me as a person. And I thought, and my hobbies, etc. I'm like, that's the steed I'm going to go for.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so that's how it happened.
So you finish your time, you march out, and then do you go to Pucka? As that's your initial employment training.
Correct,
yeah. So what was that like?
Pucka? Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, it's easiest way to explain it. It's like picture just learning how to four drive in the rural areas of Puckapunnu. It was cool fun. And you get to know the capability of different variants of vehicles, and you get to drive different variants of vehicles. But one thing, you're still doing your stuff that you would normally operate as a first-line defence soldier, not to the extreme levels of infantry, like what the gents go through at Singo, because that's like next level.
Yeah.
Like, our first parade is just checking vehicles, and where their first parade is checking their weapons, checking their health, checking their fitness, and going out for a run pretty much all day, and then backing that up with another PT session. Though we still had some physical demand, but not to the level of what a normal infantry soldier would do. But honestly, it was fun. It was really, really good.
And is that a 3-month course that you?
I think it was
initial training, or
no. It was a 6-week course.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, it was a 6-week course from memory.
Because I know some people, mate, that they say first off you're a soldier before your course, so you still know how to shoot, you still do all those sort of things.
Yeah.
But your first job is you're a soldier, and then your trade is the second part.
Correct.
And for you, so you finish your 6-week course, and then you post into 1 RAR, mate, up in Townsville. What was that like?
It was, mate, like, to be honest, that was one of my highlights of my career, to be honest, being at 1 RAR. And it was, I remember when we were going through our IETs, we we got given a piece of paper to say where we would like to be posted to. And I remember putting Townsville. It wasn't a unit. Like, we didn't even know much about units back then. It was just like put in your location preference. And I remember putting Townsville, Sydney, Darwin. So I put Darwin on last. No offence to anyone who lives in Darwin. It just wasn't a place that I wanted to go to at the time. No pun taken. It was more the fact that I wanted to see, I heard nice things about Townsville, and I wanted to kind of stay in Sydney locality because my family were based here. So I kind of like left Darwin. If I actually got posted there, to be honest, I'm sure I would have adjusted, because marine specialist trade really enabled up there as one of the primary catalysts for the marine specialist role.
So for you, and this is where the story is. This where you know my best friend Lindsay.
Yes.
You two served together. Is this where you served together up in Townsville? Is that where your paths crossed?
Correct, yeah. So Lindsay and I I met her in my second year as a marine specialist.
Yeah, okay.
So Lindsay came in as a young Louis.
Lieutenant, yep.
She was good at what she'd done. She was very young, but very experienced. She was very mature, and she was my first female boss that I've ever worked under. So, look, everyone hates to say it, but the defence back in that time was very male dominant. So for Lindsay, it was a big challenge for her, and I think she handled it pretty well.
Yeah,
especially being in a trade full of
men,
majority males. You know, so
she's she's just done 20 years of service. So congratulations to her, and she's just actually, when this podcast comes out, she would have just actually retired from the Defence Force.
Yeah,
so
I'm so happy for her.
Good on her.
Good milestone.
She's a legend. And I'm very blessed, as you are, to know her. And
absolutely,
she's an absolute amazing person that does amazing things for veterans. So and it's amazing how the paths cross. And mate, for you, you get to one RAR I should say, and what's the culture like there at that time? Because this is 2006, and like, we're going nuts with deployments and things like this. Is a busy period of time for the Australian Army, and not long after you get there, you deploy to East Timor, and for you, it would have been busy. So, what was your role over in East Timor, and how long were you deployed for?
Yeah, so I was so lucky. There's a lot of people who went through the military career. Some people have been in the military career for over 15 years and haven't been deployed once, and it's sad and unfortunate for those, because they love to deploy. But I was just, honestly, it was just my luck in the sand with that, where I just ended up posting to a unit that was getting ready to be a stabilisation support for East Timor, with all the political disruptions they had between their political party. So we just went there to stabilise and protect and do what the task force were out to do. So it was a really good task. That one area got that next rotation, and I think followed by that was 3 area when they took over. But for my role, I was there as a driver, but to support one area's movements and logistic support. So it was really, really cool. Like as a transport driver, I actually got to do some really cool stuff with the boys at one, where I worked outside the box a little bit. So it was really good support. So I got to learn and integrate with some of the boys who were infantry soldiers. And a lot of people will understand what I'm saying, what I'm talking about. Once you're infantry, or you're a driver, or you're a Q staff, it becomes a level of separation. It's like, that's my job, that's what I do it, you can't do that. And then you've got the drivers, but hey, you need trucks, you need movement, you can't get to anywhere so it becomes like a little bit of a segregation, but I kind of helped gel that. So I kind of showed that, hey man, I'm just like you, tell me what you need done, we'll get the job done. So I didn't shy away from any hard work or labour, so I remember one of the tasks that we had to do, we had to go help with the OP with some of the recon gents. And they said, Gally, you got to wake up, mate, at 3 a.m. in the morning, load up. We're going to give you 7 mags because you're going to go to an unknown area with some boys from recon, and yeah, mate, we're going to head you up in the hills today. The bird's going to leave at this time. There's already a vehicle cached up in the area. You're going to take that vehicle, pick up another. It's like so much information. It's like, dude, I'm at a private level. It's like, where's this all going? But at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, no worries, we can do that. No worries. It's like no issues in the world, but we'll just get the job done. And that's what I was about, there to support. No more, nothing less.
So for you, was that 06, 07 you were deployed over to East Timor?
07.
07.
07.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
07.
Well, actually, you'd be right then, because 3 did take from a couple of other, and I'm just racking my brain, and yes, the 3 were over there towards the end in 07.
August, or late August. Oh, yeah, it would have been August, September. They took over the rotation.
So for you, you come back to Australia from that deployment, and you're actually serving your country now overseas. What was that like coming back? And you're like, oh, do you want more? That's a really proud thing of helping stabilise a country, and that's what the Australian Defence Force does. For you, that would have been like a proud moment too, because it's, as you said, when you joined, it was giving back, and you've just done that.
Yeah, I think our main task was to win hearts and minds, and rightly so. We did that very, very well. And that, not just by me, but as a collective, which was really, really good to see, that to be a part of a unit like One RAO at that time, that we provided that stability and support, where we were kind of like, not the shapeshifters, but we did put a small dent in the work, which was good, and then we just hoped that no one else would tarnish that. But knowing the facts of after, 3RAR done an exceptional job as well through their rotation to continue on that stabilisation and support. But to answer your question, when I came back, it was a proud moment, knowing that we had been away for 6.5 months, away from family, away from the leisures and the things that we all love, to sacrifice our comforts, to know that yet we were a part of that team. Yes, or we were a part of that stabilisation force to help others. There was ups and downs in every deployment, as you probably would have heard throughout all the podcasts that you've done. But look, that's something that we always acceptable to know that it's going to come for us. So it's no surprise.
100%. And for you, as you said, and a great point you touch on there, is that the comforts that we have back at home, seeing that what other countries, how they live, it's something that what travel does. It gives you an appreciation of your home life, of what you've got, and you're right. And I think every single veteran I've ever spoken to has said the same thing. It's been, they have had that exact thing of, we didn't take for granted what we had back here at home when you go and see how others live.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a big token. Like a lot of people are starting to forget that, unfortunately. But
100%. And for you, so what happens in the next part of 07? And then, because 08, we'll get into that in a minute, but are you just back on training courses, and what's happening after the deployment? Is there a bit of a lull?
No. Yeah, technically there is supposed to be a lull. So when you deploy and you come back, you have to have 6 months of decompression before you're enabled to be deployed again. When I got back from deployment from East Timor, a CO would be appointed his own driver. And then at that time, because it was a new CO that was coming in, and he's someone that I really remember that put a really good steadfast on my career, because he helped shapeshift it. I was appointed as his driver because I kind of put my hand up for it. And I put my hand up for it because most of the drivers that I worked with at One RAO had families. And, so I didn't want to put them in that position where they had to come back on Christmas Day or in a time where they're spending time with their loved ones. I didn't have a family then. So I just put my hand up and said, yeah, I'll do it, which kind of rewarded me in other ways. Not that I was chasing it, but I remember that I was appointed his driver. They gave me a vehicle and they said, look, you're going to run all the errands for the CO, whether you need to take him to the shops or you need to take him to the RSL for functions or whatever it is. Mate, you're his driver. He's going to have your number. He's going to call you whenever he needs. I said, yeah, no issues. I'm happy to do that. So I've done it. And I remember one day I hooked up my phone to the Bluetooth in the car, and my mum, God love her, she called me, and the CEO was sitting right next to me, and she was speaking to me in Arabic. And then I replied back to her in Arabic saying, listen, Mum, I'm just working, but I'll call you back later. And I saw, when I hung up, I said, apologies, sir, I didn't want you to hear that personal call. He goes, oh, no, he goes, the fact that you spoke another language, mate, I'm so astounded. Like, that's a lot of, he goes, it's crazy that you still kept that. I said, yeah, I do. Look, my language back then was very broken. Like, I never went to school to learn how to read or write Arabic. It was just more of picking it up as a mother's tongue, like as in hearing it from home or hearing how my relatives spoke. So I kind of like just picked it up along the way, and then didn't even think much of it. Took the CEO over to the RSL in Townsville. He had his event with all the high dignitaries and his networking. His networking tasks that he had to do, and then he said, yeah, Chris, I'll organise, if you can organise to pick me up at 11, perfect. Picked him up, sent him back home, made sure he got home safely, went on leave. So this has only been 2 months after I got back from Timor. Then I get a phone call saying, hey Chris, CEO's requested for you to come back off leave to potentially deploy to Iraq. I said, oh, okay, no worries. When? He goes, oh, mate, you got to get ready now. And I was like, okay. And to be honest, I thought it was a prank.
Yep.
And I said, nah, it can't be. And then another phone call came, and it was my corporal. At that time, he goes, Chris, man, we're just trying to get into your room, mate, because we need to get your passport. And because back then, usually the unit takes it, but I don't know why, but I held on to one of my passports because I still didn't hand it back from leave. So they got into my room, they took my passport, they sent it to Sydney, and then next minute I was on a plane ready to go to Iraq with my new supplementary team to not even know anything about the job. It's just like, you're here as an interpreter. I was like, what do you mean I'm here as an interpreter? And they're like, man, you're one of the interpreters that are going along to Iraq to go help bring back some locals back that assisted the Australian Defence Force. I said, okay, no worries. So the narrative started to get painted, and it was really, really good. But the time didn't faze me. I was ready to go, and I was somewhat nervous because, one, again, it's a new job, new role. It's something that you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. Like humans, everyone hates change. It's something that we don't like to acclimatise to quickly. But yeah, just straight into it, off I go again.
And Iraq was a different theatre to East Timor, and everyone I've spoken to has said the same thing. East Timor was like a stepping stone to then I hate to say, the real wars were Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And for you, there's a lot more danger going to Iraq, and for you, IED threats higher, the rocket attacks are happening. Did that cross your mind that, okay, I've just had this deployment in East Timor, this is a whole different kettle of fish?
Yeah, massively. It's funny you said that, because at that time of going over there, I remember once, and I'm sure that most of the boys would have felt like this. I remember leaving Sydney Airport and just looking back. We left at night, and looking back at it and thinking, is this going to be the last time I ever get to see the Sydney Harbour Bridge? Is this going to be the last time I get to see home? You know what I mean? Like, because inevitables can happen. You never promise tomorrow. Everyone knows that. And that's just the realities of the harsh and fragile life we live in today. But it doesn't really cross your mind, because I think majority, because we're so on the go with the pace, with training, it kind of helps desensitize what you're going to get yourself into. It just doesn't really hit home until it actually happens, when everything just slows down. We had a few close calls where when we only just got to Lille on our job, and we had to catch a bus to the checkpoint, and apparently that bus that we were supposed to, or that truck that we were supposed to get on, got hit. And
Right.
But we were just late, so we didn't make that transport run. So I think one person died in that hit. but there was a lot of injuries, so it ended up becoming like, we got back to our room, and I remember here's another Louis, he's like, dude, we're supposed to be on that bus. I was like, oh no, man, like, what were the chances? I was lucky we were late because we got held up at the DFAC getting our food for our breakfast run.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, kind of like, man, a blessing in disguise. Unfortunate for them. But yeah, it was just
some
like
of those sliding door moments in life.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, and then that kind of hits reality. It's like, it's vulnerable out here, even being in a base, you know what I mean? It's like, you think you're protected, but you're not. It's like they're sending rockets that with no eyes, no ears, just send them up and hope for the best they hit the targets. And
so for you being over there, was that an 8th month deployment, that one?
No, so that deployment was only supposed to be for 2.5 months, where we were given the role to bring some Iraqi locals back to give them a bit of, to say thank you for their service and support that they've given back to us. But with it, then it got extended because they found out that we can DIAC, Departments of Immigration and Citizenship, got from higher up saying that we need to help the locals up in Baghdad as well. So then our 2.5 month deployment then just got extended to about 5.5 months.
Yeah, right.
So it was kind of good, and they kept me on the team because apparently I was their key interpreter. But you know what, Ads? It was so hard because I remember when I got there and when they started to speak Arabic, to be honest, mate, I did not understand them. Like, they had a different dialect. They spoke a language that I was like, dude, I can't do this job. Like, I started sweating a little bit until one of the locals, he goes, hey, are you from Beirut? Like, as in, like, he kind of understood my tone and my language. I said, no, my parents were from Lebanon, from Beirut. And then straight away, they're talking to me in the dialect that I can understand. I'm like, oh, this is so much easier. So I kind of like understood how I can then communicate with them by saying to them, hey, I don't really understand this dialect. There's some words I can understand, but this is the way I understand you. And then I kind of like changed it around, which was like bonus to me because it made my job a whole lot easier because I had to interpret and medically screen. So I had to learn a lot of the medical terminologies in another language, and that was like challenging enough.
Yeah, right.
So I remember going back to my room and rewriting words to the way that I understood them. So it wasn't just to go there and play. It was like, I worked for 5.5, 6 months straight to try and get the outcome that we needed.
And was it that they spoke faster, or like, and for you that was just because obviously your parents speak a lot slower here? And you just have to, it takes time to that new environment to get to understand what they're saying. And, gee, that would be challenging, mate.
It was.
And the pressure, too.
It was. It's a fact that not only the way they spoke fast, but the dialect was completely different. And with anyone can probably help me with this one as well and can probably vouch for it. Being an interpreter, to hear one, to remember what they said, then to translate it to a person that doesn't understand the language, then becomes like almost like Chinese whispers, where you had to really listen into the conversation and try and get the key pertinent points out. So that, again, it's just adjusting. It was more that lead questions, lead your answers, and then give it to it in nice and clear, concise form. So
for that as well, like you mentioned that your family was from Iraq. Was it good to go and see a bit of the, like, okay, it's in a war zone, but it was good to go and see your grassroots of, like where your family were. And do you have any memories of, and I know you've shown me a few, but what are some of the more enjoyable moments of the trip and some of the things that you saw?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, like there was a very close approach to see where my parents had come from, because they came from another Middle Eastern country in Lebanon, where Iraq was a little bit different, but the cultural aspect was very similar. To what it taught me was it really harnessed where my parents had come from another war-torn country in the brink of a civil war, to leave and pack up their home to come to a country where, again, it's very unknown and very, very, their identities become stripped. where who are in the new environment. Sydney was my dad's first landing, so for him it was very hard. But to know that the locals that I was helping, I was giving that back. Like, as much as I was telling them my father's story to make them feel at ease, to know what you're doing is not only just for you, but it's for your seeds that are going to come into the future. So for your wife, for your kids' kids, you've given them a chance of hope. This country's not going to provide that where you're currently in Iraq. Sad to say it's going nowhere, and it still is. So, yeah, it was a mixed emotions, but it was a good outcome.
And like as you showed me a few photos, mate, of Saddam's palace, and that would have been interesting. Going into the palace, and there's a cool photo of you with a tile thing that you showed me. And that's cool, man.
It was. Again, it's just like, it's very surreal to know that this, like, he's gone back on it. Hey, you said to me, where were you when you saw September 11th? And then you see 2003 on TV, but you're there. You're actually in there. You know what I mean? You get to really see what the media can't really pump out. And that's where it's become mixed. But it was really, really good. Like, you start to realise who you are as a person, and you kind of realise that a lot of people take things for granted. And I think that's the biggest irony in the world we live in today, where we're starting to forget what it's like across the world. So
100%. Well, you've only got to look, mate, in the sense that there's that many. Well, there's the war in Ukraine. There's wars in the Middle East, and like I've never seen in all my years. I sound like I'm an old man, but I'm not. I've never seen it, the social unrest and also how unstable the world is, because we're in conflict. There's conflict all around us. We're very lucky in Australia that we don't have conflict at the moment.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
So you come back from that deployment, very enjoyable deployment that was unexpected, and that happens 2008, and then 2009, mate, your career this is where your career sort of takes off and you finally get to that dream of, and you hit a major milestone, and talk me through this, and to do this milestone, which you mentioned, Marine Specialist, what was the training and how, like, what does the role entail? For the average listener who doesn't know military, can you just give us a bit of background about what a Marine Specialist is? Yeah,
so a Marine Specialist was a specialist trade that specialised in Army watercraft or amphibious capabilities. So they held a capability that was ship-to-shore operations that worked in conjunctions collaboratively with the Navy personnel. So they will have a squad, we'll have a unit that will get attached, and we'll have all the LCMHs run to ship along with ABT, who will set up the beach and get ready for an amphib assault force that would go occupy the beach and open up and close the beach for safety of personnel to get the logistics on and off.
Yeah, right.
So it became like, it was a really different type of level of specialist roles, but it was really, really good to see that, you know what I mean? So I loved it, and that, like you said, that didn't really come into perspective until I was really in Iraq, when I bumped into some of the SOTG lads. It was 4RAR back then, and they said, man, you need to come to 2 as a boatie, man. And it's like, man, that's where the cool stuff is. And then they kind of like put the seed in my brain, and that's where I pushed them, like, that's it. I done my trade transfer when I was in Iraq at that time, when there was a bit of lull between bringing some of the locals back home, and I thought I'll get the process started. So by the time I got back to 1, I was almost transitioning out to my new specialist trade as a Marine Specialist in 2009.
So do you have to go, like, is that to do your Marine Specialist course, do you have to get attached to the Navy and learn, like, how does it work? What's the process?
Yeah, no, so you'll just do your IETs again. So there's another IET component you have to do. So you have to learn all about the marine terminology and all the aspects and operations that are associated with the operational logistical role as a Marine Specialist. And then from there, once you pass that, that's another 6-week course. And then that just teaches you the basic of how to be a general purpose hand, just a normal deckhand on a boat, which is very labour intensive and very skillful work at times. But you can get posted. We didn't get posted to a ship. Only ABT, which is like a cargo spec role, they get attached and they get posted to a ship. But we kind of had our own island, that's where I met Lindsay. So that's where, with Lindsay and I, we had our own little, it was called Ross Island over in Townsville, 35 Water Transport Squadron. And then, that was our own little independent part. Yeah,
right.
So it was very unique.
Yeah, and because it's, as I say, mate, like when you and I started chatting, when you said, this is my trade, and I'm like, oh, I've actually got to look that up because I didn't know what it was. And as you say, it's a niche little part of the army that, as you say, when you first join, mate, who would have known? You're the first Marine Specialist I've had on the podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There you
go, first for everything.
Yeah, first for everything. So that's really cool. And so then this is where you go across to Commando. So
correct.
Now that's cool because this is where you're actually, and when you got there, because you're a support staffer, do you have to have, because the fitness levels of those guys are unbelievable? Do you, and sorry, I should say, and girls, there are girls attached in support staff. Do you have to meet those same standards?
Yes, to a degree. I think being posted in an elite unit, the stigma goes up. It's like you need to prove your worth that you're in an elite unit. You're working with individuals who really push so hard to even make their selection process to get to where they are. So for you to not take advantage of that and to spoil that, you want to be as that high level of as best you can be to not be that person to fall behind. So always be there on time, always get the job done, never shy away from work, hold a good high level of fitness standard. And if you just had those fundamentals of good work ethics, you'll gel right in. And I think that's what kept me as long as I was in that unit as a Marine Specialist, and with good peers in the trade as well, helped me get there as well. So it was such a great unit to be in and to be part of, because you're not only just doing your job, but you're branching out, doing their courses as well. So it becomes very skillful and very stressed at times as well, because it's like, dude, I'm just here to operate a boat, but no, you're going with them to go put them on or interdict or to become a part of a recovery mission. You know what I mean? So it was full on, but it was great.
So is that you're attached as the tag? You're with the tag unit. Is that correct? That's how I'm. Yeah,
correct.
So for our non-listeners so it's Tactical Assault Group East. So it's the counter-terrorism for the east coast of Australia. So that's what Chris was attached to.
Yeah, so we were kind of we were the small enablers, SBT, that provided that amphibious capability to be able to interdict for recovery in Tag East. So Tag East, we looked after the east coast, and we had Perth with their own SBT, SBT1 or SBT2. So they looked after the western side, but I think they actually merged them now.
Oh, okay.
So which is kind of good, because it just keeps everyone under the same umbrella. But we always cross-pollinated our different roles and techniques, and I think that's what evolved SBT a lot more. And and that was one good thing that we held. Like, most of the boys at 2 looked at SBT with the highest respect, because they knew that we were there for the job, and that we were there doing the job with them. So it was a really good level of respect to have. And we were talking about before, it's like becomes that segregation, but again, we gel it together, which makes it so much easier, because we held a capability where that they really relied on us for information and some advice, and when you go to ops rooms and plannings, I can't talk too much about it,
of course.
But to show what you're worth as an individual with all the information that you have, you become a very crucial part of that puzzle. So, and that's what I loved about it. It's just always, it's dynamic, it's fast-paced, it changes constantly on the go. And again, with my mindset, I was always go, thinking ahead. So I kind of blended in, and I kind of felt at home being at that unit.
So with that, being attached to an elite unit, are you basically, from some of the other guys, I've spoken to a few from 171 Regiment and the air wing side of things, do you have no life? Like, are you just on constant go ready time, let's go, day or night, bang, we need the boats in, let's go, just like that?
Yeah, we had a call-out period, so we had to notice the move, and that was constant. So when you attack, like for my years, I was there for 6.5 years, then got past. So it's like being there for 7 years, being on call, and you just got to suck it and just take it and just run with it. So it becomes very mind taxing, but I got used to it, to be honest. And and that's what I'm saying. Most of those boys, they just done it because they wanted to do it. That was our job, and that was their job, and they held it to their highest regard. So it's like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, what are you doing today? It's like, yeah, sometimes you get the chill, but when the job's on, man, like, you're there for hours, and you're there till the next day and the days after that. So it just can be really. It's very hard to put a pulse on it, but it just really depends on how long that job's going to go for. But again, everyone was there just to do their part.
So was there any, like, obviously you say downtime, was that just servicing the boats, making sure they're all good to go, and all that sort of thing? If that was your downtime, not really downtime, but just making sure that the boats are all in good working order?
So it's crazy. I'm glad you brought that up, Hadsy, because a lot of people don't realise, like, they're like, yeah, what are you doing, SBT? It's like, we held a big responsibility then. Like, our downtime, it was making sure those boats were ready to run. When a call out happens, they need to be fully functional. Like, to the point that we'll pull things apart, check things, and go over things, and make sure everything's all good. There's nothing worse than getting ready for a call out and your boat doesn't start right. So it's like, man, how are you going to explain that one? So there's being a corporal at that unit, being in charge of an asset like an SF ADRIB, becomes a very big responsibility on your shoulders. And then after I'd done that, then I was in charge and responsible of operating the SAFGOL, which a SAFGOL is another vessel, which is a larger vessel, which is, I think she's 20 metres in length.
Yeah, okay.
Almost 60-something feet. So I was the main operator out of that, assisted by some sergeants at the time. But yeah, to have that level of integration, it's so good because you become very diverse. But again, in saying that, it was our downtime was maintenance, operator maintenance mainly. So yeah, a lot of people don't see that.
Well, they just see boats going
down they're like,
in the water.
That's a mad job. We're going to realise what we have to do to get those boats up to where they are.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to highlight it, mate, because I'm like, it's not just sitting there and you guys are just sitting, chilling and getting a suntan. It's no, you guys were busy and day and night. Like,
correct.
And people don't realise that there's night operations with this. And so are you part of that where they parachute in, you have to go and pick them up, and they swim and they jump in the boats? That's sort of what you're
correct.
doing.
Yeah. So that capability. So SBT held the parachute capability for a while now, and I think they've next leveled it up where they're taking ownership of that insertion method. So yeah, it was just constant. Like I said, you have to do all majority of their courses.
So did you have to jump? You had to be
no. So I was fortunate enough to not jump, only because of the way I painted, like the way I manoeuvred myself through jumping on the SAFGOL, and it's just happened to fall into line where that I jumped on the SAFGOL because there was, I think they were down one sergeant at the time, so kind of like pulled me away for some other courses. And I think I was supposed to be on one of the parachute courses, but yeah, I couldn't jump on it because I think I had some family stuff going on. But I've done the other insertions. I've done fast roping and
talk me through that. What's that like?
Well, if you're afraid of heights, it's probably not a good thing, especially like jumping out of a plane. But I don't know, like I spoke to some of the boys, I said, what do you, like speaking to some of them, and they're like, because some of them have done their parachute, most of the SBT boys were all qual, and they're doing free fall as well. And I said, what do you think between the two? Well, like fast roping or, like, I don't know, like there's mixed feelings between the both. And I said, well, look, I'd much rather a parachute, man, that just opens up, where you jump out of a helicopter, man, and you jump on, like, you grab that rope. There's nothing stropped on. That's it.
It's you holding that rope.
Hold on that rope, and just you smell your rubbers burn halfway down. You know that, man, you're coming down pretty fast. So I think the course, you have to complete a few serials. Your first one was 30 feet, then the next one was 90, and you have to do them again at night time and underway. So yeah, I found that was a little bit, how you going? But look, we done it. And we passed it, and that's in
ticking the box.
But it was a good training and capability experience.
See, I know what you're talking about because I winch in and out of helicopters into fires, and I can tell you now, I know 30 feet because we've done a 30 feet winch, and I've done a 90-foot winch.
Yeah,
I've winched in a strop. That's hard enough, like because you've got the strop underneath your arms, and to fast rope down, that's next level, mate. That's crazy.
I never forget when they, because you had to, like, being part of the course, you had to, like, throw the rope out of the helicopter, and I just happened to be that dude right behind that rope, just look over the edge and then just throw it over. And when we're at 90 feet, I was like, oh, this is high. This is really high, man. And to see the rope just go down, it's like still falling, still unraveling, still falling, still unraveling. It's hit the bottom now. I was like, dude, this is high, man. And and then just holding that rope for the next guy to get on, and then seeing them go kind of gives you that, we're here, we're going to do it, guys. Like, let's get out. And then once you get down, it's like, let's go do that again, you know?
That first time.
And
it's funny because I've spoken to a lot of the boys from 2, and a lot of them hated parachuting. And it's like, well, you joined a unit that you do it all the time. And it's like, most of them go, we couldn't fathom jumping out of a perfectly good plane to then jump into, like, and this is the thing that people don't realise too, mate, is how there's been no boys that have been seriously injured from, like, shark attacks or anything, that they're jumping into water, like, you know, water that's, like, in the dark. Like, no thanks. I take my hat off to them, man, of what they do, and like, that is, like, people need to realise that they're like jumping into, like, the harbour, and then they've got to swim to a certain point, and it's like, these are risks that how there's been no one ever taken. I don't. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But look, and that goes to our level of training in our recovery and in our safety that we perform on the water. So part of our safety, as well as being marine specialists in a SBT 2 commander environment, we provided that safety for the gents to jump out of those planes and land safely into the water. So we'll be there to recover them as quick as we could. So I think, one, our boats always scare the sharks away. Look, we had a few, not near misses, but we had some sharks in the area, not to scare the next person who's going to go jump out of a plane tomorrow. But look, they're there because they're hunting for food. They're not, by the time they hear the splash, engine noise and all that, I think you kind of spook them away because you're an alien to them as such. But in saying that, what the biggest risks are the environments of, again, you saying jumping out of a perfectly good airplane and, God forbid, having a malfunction with, because I've seen so many malfunctions happen.
Well, we lost.
We lost. I heard about that as well.
Jack given last
so
year.
Sad.
So
you know what I mean? And that becomes that's a risk that we have to unfortunately face. Luckily, in my time of being there to support for those recoveries, no one has been injured. We lost a few equipment, but equipment can be replaced, right? We can't. So that's why it was paramount for safety in everything that we had done.
So when you went there in 2009, because that was when the whole company started to roll, so it was a change where every company would come through, and what was that like, seeing and working with the different companies? Was that, because originally, as people would listen, Charlie Company held the tag for a long, long time, and then the companies would roll through in 2009, and there was a rebrand of it went from 4 RAR Commando to the 2nd Commando Regiment. What was that like, working along with the different team leaders, and you would have enjoyed that, I'm guessing? Yeah,
absolutely. Again, it's just like integration of meeting new walks of life and new people that have been in it. It's like, there's some gents that I've worked with, it's like, they've been there for so many years. It's like, dude, like, I haven't seen you once. It's because everyone is so into their own space and into their own work. But honestly, I've never had a bad encounter or never met anyone that wasn't really in their space of professionalism. Everyone was there to support one another. And I think that's what makes that unit so unique, because everybody who goes and tries out and do their selection, hats off to them, they want to be there. You know, it's not just, hey, you're going to be selected. And that's what kind of made SBT very unique, where it was selective, but it wasn't selective on who went down there. Let's face it, you want the people who can gel. You want the people who can network. You want the people who are there that had good work ethics, same values, same morals, and get the job done. Because you couldn't afford for anyone who didn't want to be there, especially in that environment.
And is it a small unit where when you're attacked, like, do you say what, a unit of 10, 20? What is it? Because it's such a small team and specialist, capability. Was it? Like, it's not a regiment size. Like talk me through that.
As in SBT.
SBT, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't. I wouldn't be able to say the exact numbers, but yeah, we were just a small section in an organisation that was attached to a normal admin team.
Yeah.
But we held that capability. We were a small team. We were very small, but as a small team, we got all our jobs done, and we ticked all the boxes. Like, honestly, with all the jobs that we had done. Like, even like my commanders, and they always got good feedback, and with everything that we had done in the level of support that we had given to the gents over at 2. And that was a big part, to know that, you know what, we were appreciated, and that didn't leave.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about leadership, because leadership, you've seen some really great leaders in the army, and you've seen some really poor leaders, and I know I have in my organisation as well. I've seen some really good ones and some poor ones. What life lessons have you learnt from good leaders that you now take away from your time in the military and you now have in your everyday life?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, leadership, unfortunately, this day and age, leadership can't be taught. Leadership can be gained through experience, in certain degrees. But I think good leadership comes from ethics and morals that were passed down from descendants prior to you as good human beings, where a good leader would show empathy, that would show courage, that would show commitment, that always show true values on what a leader should be. And I think I was very fortunate enough to have a majority of good leaders in my career, which kind of laid my foundation to my next goals and my next perseverance in life. But then again, you're going to have those leaders that come through your life that, they're not, look, you wouldn't say that they're bad people, but their leadership qualities aren't as good as the person that you've had before. So you've got to kind of balance that out and just know not to take it to heart or take it for granted. That's just who they are, unfortunately, and that's what you just have to deal with. But for me, I kind of learned how to block that out. Again, having that thick skin growing up as a kid to know how to mould with these type of individuals. But I'm not saying they're bad, but it's just more saying that they're losing the face value of becoming a better leader than 100%. What they actually are. Yeah. I mean, they've been appointed the rank not because they've earned their rank. Let's face it, but it's how they hold that rank and how they pass it on to the next. And one thing, my satisfaction that I got from most of my peers that I taught along the way in my trade, they're like, you know what, Gally, mate, you've taught me a lot, and I thank you. To hear that was like enough for me. Didn't care about my medals, didn't care about my small little accolades that I got along the way. I never talk about them. Look, like I said, we're here to do the job, and we got the job done. What happened in between that, it was a bonus. But what I harnessed and what I loved, the fact that someone, my peer that was younger than me, appreciated the level of leadership that I was giving to them to help their careers. You know what I mean? It
is, and that little bit of like what you learn as well is a little bit of recognition goes a long way, and that's crack it, man. Just crack it. It's all good. That's the thing, mate. Is that little bit of recognition goes a long way with your peers, and you learnt that along the way, as we all have. And so, mate, you're attached to this awesome unit, but then you suffer a back injury, and what happens here, and this really affects your career going forward, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, this is where it kind of really shaped and tested my resilience and me as a person, because I kind of realised that, you know, our bodies weren't made to last forever as much as we like to see it. It was very physically demanding being a marine specialist in a two commando environment, because like you think about it, like you're on a rib that, you know, has a light displacency of 7.5 to 8 ton. I can't remember the exact figures, but then to go out into the ocean, punching between 25 to 30 knots in like 1 to 2 meter swells, it becomes taxing on your body, and especially operating at night where you can't read the waves on when to accelerate and to pull off on the lip of the next wave. You can just like crump into the next one, and you feel that shock just go through your body. So it was like, someone asked me, like, Chris, what was it like? I said, man, to be honest, it's like, man, getting blindsided by a tackle that you didn't even know about. And, like, you know, that wind just takes you. So, you know, going back to my injuries, I literally broke my back, man, in end of 2016 on a live operation that we had to do. I can't talk too much about it because it was very sensitive at the time. But yeah, it's just that I managed to hang on. I just remembered it felt like toothpaste squeezing in my back. Like I kind of knew that something had happened, but we still continued on. And yeah, later, once we got the job done and we got all our boats out of the water, and I just remembered thinking, what just happened? And I remember calling over the medic. I said to him, hey man, look, have you got some pain meds? Or he goes, well, what's the matter? What'd you do? I said, I just feel like I feel like I've pulled a muscle in my lower back. He goes, I'll give you some anti-inflammatories. We'll give you some Panadol, and I just had them all the way back home, and it helped a little bit. But then I was going on leave, so I didn't really have a chance to go see the doctors back at the RAP. So I went straight on leave with the family, and actually I was posting out. So this last minute operation happened towards later in the year. So I was supposed to be packing up the house to move, but I took this job last job of the year, and I just ran with it, and yeah, moved back up to Townsville, and then it wasn't until I had started to do my fitness test again, and then I just passed, and then the next day I couldn't really walk. It was like I knew there was something that was going on with my back.
Because you were fit at this stage, weren't you?
Yeah, I was still fit. I was still fit.
Just past that. Yeah, alarm bells for you.
I felt a bit off running. I thought maybe it's just because I had a bit of time off and I didn't really get back into because my back was still very, very tender, so I didn't want to push it. So I thought, I just do the 2.4K, just get the bare minimum time, just get through it until I find out what's going on. But yeah, I just passed. I scraped in by a couple seconds, to be honest, Adzi. Like, I was, like, sweating, man.
Yeah, right.
And then it wasn't until the next day. And then I remember my wife calling up my supervisor at the time and saying, look, he can't make it into work. He's just gone to the RAP to go get his back looked at. And then, yeah, they sent me off to go get an MRI done. And within not even 2 hours, my sports physician called me. He goes, you need to come and see me ASAP. Your back's not playing the game. He goes, you really need to look at this. And I did, and I kind of realised the severity on how bad my back was. It was sad to hear, but he was painting the picture that you need to see, and you need to find a new career, man. Like, you keep going on with this back, you're going to be in a wheelchair. That was his words.
Wow.
Yeah, so I kind of like hit me, and I went through that phase. It was like, I'm stuck in Townsville. I want to get back to Sydney, and then it put me in that defeated mode, and that wasn't me. I was always that character that will always persevere and push through. And then, yeah, I just remember one day just the injuries, looking over the injuries that I had, and I said, no, I can do this. You know what? I'm just going to go push hard in my rehab, try and get back to a good steed, and you never know. I might just stay in where I am, and lo and behold, I get it towards the end of the year. All my rehab was going well, and the only way that I can post back out was to medically upgrade to another level. I think it was J3-1 at that time. And then that way that gives me a bit of an ability to post out, then redo another fitness test wherever I land, where my sergeant at the time called me. He goes like, "Hey, Gally, no shit, mate, how's your back?" Because him and I, we always kept, I said, "Oh, yeah, it's going pretty good, man." He goes, "Oh, really?" I said, "Why is that?" He goes, "Well, mate, I've got a potentially to bring you back to 2. Do you want it?" I said, "Yeah, man, let's do it." He goes, "All right, no worries. Let me make a few phone calls." And no, kid you not, like, got my medical, done my fitness test, passed that. I had about a minute to spare this time. I felt a little bit tender, but again, to push through, even though how that bad resilience. My back was, I kind of like built myself up again, but it still wasn't 100%. The doctors thought I was crazy, but I thought, you know what, we can push it. And then, next minute my wife was pregnant with my daughter at the time, so within a year we had to pack back up again and move back down to Sydney, and then had to pass another test when I got down there, which I did. So I was much lighter than what I was. I was more fitter than what I was before I went up. Before I came back up to Townsville, and then pushed hard again, pushed as hard as I could, jump back on the ribs, and the same thing. My body just started to give way. And then it wasn't until the doctor said to me, like, "Chris, I can't see you do this. We can't, like, you will be in a wheelchair. Like, we need to really think about your career now, because you've got stress fractures in your pelvis, you've got fractures in your lower spine, you got fractures in your pelvis, your hips. Like, we got to really look at what you're doing, amongst other injuries, but they're the most focal points of my lower limb." And
you're not an infantry soldier. Like, this is the thing. Like, you're not an infantry soldier. You're just going out. It's just as tolling on the body and taxing, being out in the ribs and doing what you do.
Absolutely.
And this is the thing that I love highlighting in the podcast to the listener is the guys and girls, what they do. It's the long-term effects that end up, later in life. And because how old are you at this point? What were you when this was happening, when you come back?
I was 36.
So 36. So
still young.
So still young. So you're still very young.
36 to go on with a potential. I had 6 surgeons look at my back, Anzi, and they didn't want to touch it. They're like, if we touch this,
there's a higher chance you're going to end up in a chair.
They said, yeah, you could be paraplegic. So it was like, oh, dude, I don't want that. You know what I mean?
You're 36. You just got your
correct.
Father.
Yeah. So I kind of like, let's just seek out what needs to happen. And then it wasn't until then when everything just got rushed and saying, yeah, look, you're going to get out and then get ready for a medical separation. And that's when led me to transition. And then coming out of that rabbit hole, it's like, where do you go from here? It's like, dude, you're being told that you're losing your job in a job that you love doing, in a job that I thought to myself that I was going to retire in, because I loved it so much, and I love the camaraderie, and I love being in that professional unit where we're able to assist when we could. But yeah, it really hit home, and it became a real dark place for me. But I kind of learned how to, again, going back to my days of having thick skin growing up as a kid. You kind of learn how to channel the right things from it. But honestly, I'm not going to lie, it was the darkest time of my year, especially leaving defence a year after.
Yeah.
Because you're getting out. Look, DVA, they looked after me so well, I'm not going to lie. But it's the fact that leaving defence, not having a job, being so bored at home with all your injuries, you start to think too much. And I think that's where it kind of brought me into those rabbit holes, which I'm kind of glad that I'm out.
Well, you say that, mate. 13 years of your life, you gave, and you gave your all, mate, to the Australian Army, and it was a job you loved. I can understand why that transition would have been hard, and we're going to get into your transition now, and also in that same year in 2019 that you transitioned, your mum passed away. Yeah. So on top of that, that compacting of like loss of identity, you lose your mum. That as you say, is the hardest time of your life. Did you have any dark thoughts at that point, or was it like...
Yeah? I did. That year was, like I said, it was like... It became to the point where it's like, what's our purpose in life now? It's like we work so hard to get to where we are, and watching my mum and my mum and dad work so hard, like 3 jobs at times to get us by as young kids, than to watch my mum suffer for 6 years struggling with cancer. And it's not a nice place to go to, but again, it teaches you, one, resilience, and you don't wish it up. Like, it's like you think back on it and you're like, why me? But you know what? Why anyone else should go through that? You know, they're the life lessons that we learn along the way. We just have to, unfortunately, they're our cards that we get dealt. And at that time, you've kind of felt like the world let you down. It's just a natural thought process that happens. And then, again, it took me ages to get out of that place. And
it's a hard... I've been there. It's a very dark...
anyone can know as yourself, mate.
It's a dark place.
It is. And you're all alone.
Courage. Yeah.
Regardless of how many people love you and how many people are around you, you stop to think about that. Where you just feel that, no, it's about me now.
100%. And you got to own it, mate. You got to do the work. You got to start. And for you, mate, finding that purpose again after you'd lost your mum, so you're grieving your mum, and it is. I will say separation from defence for you after 13 years. You're grieving that loss too, because that it is a loss.
It is,
and so you got 2 big losses. How And we'll talk about your family and your wife, your beautiful wife and your beautiful kids. How did you claw back to find purpose again? Talk me through this next part of your journey.
By having a strong wife and beautiful kids. Nah, my wife, honestly, man, she was the rock and the pinnacle of pulling me out. To be honest, like, to have a strong foundation like my wife and my kids that give me a purpose, it's kind of what drew me to my next line of life. And that's just, I need to put my big boy's hat on and pull my big boy pants up and say, hey, I've got to protect them now. Like, I've brought this, I've got to fix this. And then that's what led me into my next ventures in life.
Well, we're gonna talk about that now, mate, because at that time too, COVID hits as well.
Yeah.
So you've got you sort of, mate. In all honesty, you picked a really hard you drew that really
short straw.
That short straw on that shit card to go. Oh, bang! Here, let's separate from defence. Mum passes away, and let's add a world pandemic in. It
was nuts.
Global
man.
Pandemic, awesome. So, mate, you now do, as a veteran and first responder, you have found purpose again, and you are now a business owner, and you give back to veterans and first responders. And mate, I'd like you to now share what that is, and I'll let you lead on this of what you do now.
Sure, thanks, Hadzi. So like I said, that year that I spiraled into, I needed to seek a little bit of more purpose and more of to find a new line of ways to go through the challenges in life. And one thing, what you discussed before, losing your job in defence, losing your mum, and then going into a world pandemic was like big 3 kick in the guts to go through, you know what I mean? But again, like, in all honesty, in all fairness, DVA did help me along the way to be financially stable and to get along those financial burdens, because it was still very unknown and unset to what my career was going to look like. And again, it just really shows the defiance in a person to know his or her resilience to pull through it. You know, they always say, why is diamond always the hardest substance that is kicking around on this earth today? Because it works so well and was created under pressure. And I think if everyone takes that analogy and go through hardship, perseverance of, coming out from being under pressure, coming from the dirt to being a nice, shiny, unstoppable diamond, then I think anyone can do, regardless if you're a first responder or you just separated as a contemporary veteran. Don't lose hope. Just keep pushing through, because I did. And honestly, I'm enjoying my life far more now than what I did. Even though I love defence, I wouldn't take it back. If you asked me, Chris, would you join again, do everything? Yeah, let's replay it. I'll do it again in a heartbeat because I enjoyed every second of it. But what I'm trying to say is that when you're unfortunately moving on, and this is not necessarily for those who are medically separated. This could be for those who want to just have a different career change from what they want to do. Don't feel as if it's the all and end all. There's always a way out, but you need to find that help and support, which kind of led me to go and assist and help the St. Mary's RSL sub-branch whenever I can for those contemporary veterans. Because I found that when I was going through my transition, I found that the help was there, the support was there, but information could have been a lot clearer. And that's what I'm trying to give back to the defence community or the first line responders, whoever needs help, just to let he or she know that support is there if you need it. But always believe in yourself and what you can do and your abilities beyond that, because everyone have their own unique abilities, and you just got to find it. And I found mine, as you already know, with the business that I co-founded, which was that gave me life. That's what broke me out of that rabbit hole, Adzi. I'm not going to lie, and hence it started off as a hobby, mate, and there was no financial gains behind it. And I'm not going to lie to you, but it was more that helped keep my sanity and helped me push forward to the next parts. But then again, like yourself, like I've provided a platform that can help others.
100%,
if anyone leaves defence, you know what? I'm happy to try and give them a job and help them build their way and navigate their way post-defence. But the only advice I can give to those who are leaving defence, just take a year to decompress, reflect on themselves, learn more about themselves, because I wish I had that information when I got out, because I missed that part. And that's what almost, could have put me in that bad spot.
100%. And you, as you say, mate, that you missed that year. Well, it was very hard during a global pandemic to have that decompress because you locked down. So you sort of missed that. And we're actually today, it's a great point you touch on. We're actually recording on what you now do. And it's mate, it's a privilege to be here.
Nancy.
And mate, as I say, like for anyone out there, no matter how bad life gets and the dark times, and there are dark, and I know them myself, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, there is light, and if you keep working, keep striving, you are going to come through it, and you have, mate. You've come through the other side, and you've done it with grace, with dignity, and hard work. And that work ethic that you've had your whole life has shone through, mate, to where we are today.
Thanks.
So
Appreciate it.
Well done, mate.
I appreciate it. No, look, as you already know, putting this business together wasn't easy, but again, it took some time, and it's just it holds unique stories, with even the name of the business, and as in Poseidon Seas Group, Poseidon was my call sign on the water, so I had to try and bring some elements into it to kind of keep me grounded of where the roots kind of started from. And look, being in the luxury yacht industry, it's more it defined the way, not to show people that he's made it. No, they don't see what took me to get me here.
Still a lot of sleepless nights for you, mate.
Yeah. Oh no, yes and no. It was more that it's to see others around you how they are or how they can be, and to be out in this world for everyday business is challenging itself. Like going in the confines of the corporate defence space being so easy and so easily handled, to coming into a big organisation battling with big entities who are millionaires and billionaires is because Chris, why do you even pick that, man? But again, I did it for the love and passion of the water, and it's giving that opportunity for those who leave defence, if they need a bit of hope and guidance, it's here.
100%. And even, mate, I know that you've got plans to embed something of, a veteran and first responder run events and things that you can do to help give back, and that. So, mate, you're providing service again, just not wearing it. You're just wearing a different uniform now.
That's right. Yeah, and that was crazy how you and I met. I invited you over to that event, that inaugural event, the commemorative service for the MEAO, and it was very nice to show that a veteran still is willing to try and help and assist others.
100%.
And I think we can't lose that, because the moment we lose that, it's going to be very hard for the next generation to come up. So I think it's very invaluable.
Well, I'm glad that you say that, because I'm glad that you're bringing your kids up in the way that you were brought up, because I think there is going to be a shift. I hope so, because the pendulum has swung a long way, and it's. I think people have realised that actually these ways aren't like being selfish and all those. Like, mate, we're all here to do a job. We've got a job to do. I really believe that. I absolutely believe we've got a job to do. And if you go back to, well, I know my values, mate. If I go back to them, it's love, growth, and connection, and that's what it is, and helping people and giving back. That's essentially why you joined the military. It's essentially why I became a first responder, is because I'm willing to give of service. That's what we
100%.
And eventually, hopefully, we'll get back to that. The pendulum is starting to shift.
Yeah,
so
I think so.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think so. And it's just those little small things that we do. A lot of people aren't built like us,
No.
Adzi. It's either you got it in your heart, you want to give it your all in all. But unfortunately, not many people are built like that. But we have to show that awareness to show that we can help others, and to know they're not alone. So that's
100%.
That's crucial, man.
100%. So, mate, you're doing that now, and what are your plans going forward with your family into the future?
To live a comfortable and humble life. I think as long as I can give my kids the basic foundation and knowledge that I wish I was given as a young fella, I want to give to them and help as many people as I can around me to know the fact that to get those recalls by saying, Chris, you know what, you taught me a lot, man, and I appreciate that. To me, that gives me strength to move on to the next day to do that again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
It's not about the money. It's not about money comes and goes, man. You got two promised dates in this world: the day you were born and the day you die. And unfortunately, you can't take everything with you.
The only other thing, mate, the promise is tax.
You
gotta pay tax.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the way. So to answer your question, I'm just trying to enjoy my time, because as you already know, like, I had a bit of a rough year to begin with at the start of the year with my health, and that kind of really shaped those. Again, so I was kicking into 4 years now of, like, and my major back surgery last year.
Yep. And because you had a near-death experience, didn't you?
Yeah. To be in February, start of the year, I had a small stroke, and honestly, I thought that was it. But again, my wife, she it happened in the middle of the night. I was asleep when it happened, and it wasn't until I woke up and my wife realised that he's having a stroke. So first thing she done, she called paramedics and 000, and she said, my husband's having a stroke. And lo and behold, hey, I'm still here. So thank her.
Mate.
And thank the team that came and picked me up.
Mate, I'm
because
glad.
they done. We wouldn't have met otherwise.
No, mate.
So
I'm glad you're here, mate.
Yeah, honestly,
and I call you a brother and a mentor and a friend, and
Thank you.
It's a privilege to sit across and record your story, mate. And
thank you.
As you said, mate, there's stories of. The reason I do the podcast is that I've got mates who are no longer here. They've passed on tragically, and we've lost them tragically. One of my really close mates, I talk about him a lot, and I still miss him every day, and I almost get emotional. He was 2 Commando, one of the originals, and he was killed on his motorbike in the US. And this is why we do, you had a near-death experience. These are recorded for history, so that your kids, your grandkids, can listen and go,
appreciate it. Honestly,
and that's why I do them, mate. And I love it. And mate, for you, I've got a couple of final questions. So, knowing what you know now and all that you've been through, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self, and would he listen?
I would give my 18-year-old self give life a crack, and be, you know what, if you're going to do something, be the hardest worker in the room. And just, if you've got a good heart feeling of doing something that doesn't seem reachable, do it. Because it can be reached. You just got to want it. And that's the only token I can probably give to my 18-year-old self again, is to be the hardest worker in the room again, and just to outshine yourself again for what you've done before. So
And enjoy the journey, mate.
enjoy the journey.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that's key. You got to enjoy everything you do. You can't just do something that you don't enjoy doing. If you, I always used to say, if you wake up in the morning, you don't want to get up to go do it, then you're in the wrong trade, man.
100%.
So, and that was one thing that I noticed along in my military career, Adzi, in my 13 years. In that 13 years, I did not wake up once to say, oh, can't be stuff going into work today. Mate, I couldn't wait to go I couldn't wait to go to work.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because you love it. It's the same as what I'm doing now. You're passionate for it. You're watching something grow. You know, you help mentoring, you're helping teach, you're putting food in people's fridges and you're paying their bills. And for me, that's awesome, man.
100%.
You know what I mean? That's for me, that's credit. You know what I mean? To have my staff under you, not saying they're under you for it, but you're providing them with opportunities
100%.
to grow. You
100%.
know?
I love it, mate. That's so. It's so good for any young player out there too to never give up, keep striving, and just keep pushing to be the best version of yourself. And every day, if you're working on yourself and be better than you were the day before, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
So, mate, looking back now, with everything that you've been through, all your injuries, was joining the military still the best decision you ever made in your life?
Absolutely.
Apart from marrying your wife?
We'll go with marrying my wife. It was my highlight before I get in trouble. No, she's the best. But yeah, going through defence, that was our bridge. That was the bridging of the career, man. You know, that's what helped us to. That's where it got me to where I am today. Without the defence community and the defence industry and the jobs around it, I wouldn't be where I am now, Hadzi. So it's credit to the system that worked.
Well, there's, as you say, mate, there's a lot of veterans out there that have a different mindset of being I'm not being controversial here, broken.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there you can move on from defence, transition, and first responder, and become, you know, as you said, that snippet of what you said, where when you're at Kapuka, it's 1/15 of your career
Correct.
or your life.
Yep. It's only a smidge. It's only like, if you work it out, it's only like not even 5% of your life gone. So in that 5%, you look at it, that's just a smidge in your life, you know. So you got to. That really stuck with me.
100%.
So it's a good way of looking at it.
100%, and that's it. Service is one part of who you are. That's it. There's more outside of and doing podcasts like this and others is showing that there is life after service. That's what it's all about. And mate, how do people get in contact with you if they want to? They love what you're doing and in the veteran space, first responder space. How do they get in touch with you to even come out on the boat or follow and just follow you?
I'm happy to, if you can, I'm happy to even give you like a link in the bio, or something like that. If you want, they can reach me in my emails, or they can go to my website and have a look at it. And they're more than welcome to reach out. And even if it's just that it's something totally not relatable to what I'm doing now, but mainly for support and guidance for life after defence. I'm happy to share my experience that can help them.
Absolutely.
So my door's always open, given the time that I can give.
Chris, it's been an absolute honour and a privilege to have you on True Blue and share your story. So, Chris Ghalayini, thank you for coming on True Blue Conversations. Cheers, mate. Thanks very much.
Mate, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of True Blue Conversations with your host, Adam Bloom. See you on the front line.